Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I am Hasham. So far, 6 problems I have completed on residential status. Now this is the last video on the problems of residential status. Remaining problems I am to complete in this video. So the problems on residential status are based on the theory, on the provisions given by the Income Tax Act. How to find out or how to determine the residential status of individual, HUAF, company, etc. Right? So now I'm going to start the 7th problem. But before starting the 7th problem, I expect my viewers to have a printout of the problems which I have given in the link under my description. So always keep it ready. Take the screenshot of the answers of 7th to the all remaining problems. Then I'll explain every point in detail. Now, see the 7th one. Mr. Johnson, an American nationalist, is appointed as senior scientific officer on 1st April 2017. First of all, he is a foreigner to India and he is appointed as a senior scientific officer in India from 1st April 2017. On 31st January 2018, he went to Iran on deputation for a period of 1 year, leaving his family members in India. So he came for the first time on 1st April 2017 and on 31st January 2018 he went to Iran on deputation. Now on 1st May 2018 he came back to India and took his family members with him on 30th June 2018. 1st May he came, on 30th June he went. He returned to India and joined his original job on 2nd Feb 2019. Determine his residential status for the assessment year 22-23. Now we have to be careful regarding the dates. When he left India and when he come back India, like that. So first of all, Mr. Johnson, assessment year, current assessment year 22-23 and previous year is 21-22. It started from 1st April 2021 and ended on 31st March 2022. So first time he came to India on 1st April 2017, first time. Then he went to Iran, left for Iran on 31st January 2018. That means from 1st April 2017 to 31st Jan 2018, he was in India, right? Then came back to India on 1st May 2018. So he went on 31st January 2018, come back to India on 1st May 2018. Then left for Iran on 30th June 2018. That means May and June, 2 months he was in India. After 2 months again he went for Iran and came back to India on 2nd Feb 2019. So finally he joined the original job and came back to India on 2nd Feb 2019. From 2nd Feb 2019 till current date he was in India only. He never went out of India. Now, the assessee stayed in India during the whole previous year. So, first basic condition is satisfied that he stayed in India for more than 182 days. So, he is a resident. Because he arrived in India on 2nd Feb 2019. From 2nd Feb 2019 till date, he is in India. That means our current previous year, 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2022. During this period of 365 days, he was completely in India. So during the whole previous year, he was in India. He satisfies the first basic condition, 182 days or more. So he is a resident. He is a resident. Now in order to check whether he is an ordinary resident or not ordinary resident, we have to check the additional conditions. The additional conditions are 2. Must be a resident in at least 2 out of 10 previous years preceding the current previous year. Similarly, must stay in India for 730 days or more during 7 years preceding the current previous year. Now we have to check. Now I am checking like this. Previous year, number of days, status. Our current previous year is 2021-22. So before 21-22, it is 2021. So I am starting from 2020-21. This is the year before our current previous year. Current previous year is this one. Before this 2021. Now we go back up for 10 years. So 2021, before that 19, 20, 18, 19, 17, 18, 16, 17, 15, 16, 14, 15, 13, 12, 13, 14, then 12, 13, then 11, 12. These are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, right? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, correct. So these are the 10 years preceding the current previous year. Now we have to check how many days. First of all, he arrived on 1st April 2017. He arrived on 1st April 2017. So in 17-18 he was in India. Before 17-18 it is 16-17. From 16-17 backward he was not in India. So 16-17, 15-16, 14-15, 13-14, 12-13, 11-12. All these years he was not in India. So his status was non-resident from this year. From 16-17 to last. Completely he is non-resident. Because first time he came on 1st April 2017. 17 to 18 he was in India for some days. Now we calculate 17-18. When he came 1st April 2017, when he left for Iran 31st Jan 2018. So how many days he stayed in India? So April, complete month, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January 31st. So totally 10 months he stayed in India. So if you count the number of days in these 10 months, you will get 307 days. During 17-18, he stayed in India for 307 days. So 307 days his status will be resident. More than 182 days. Right? Now before that we will come to 18 and 19. Now see carefully. He left for Iran on 31st Jan 2018, came back to India on 1st May 2018. Right? 18-19 we are seeing. So then again left for Iran on 30th June 2018. So May and June, only 2 months he was there. Then again came back to India on 2nd February 2019. Actually our year is 18-19. Right? So how many days he stayed? So May complete month, June complete month. So 31 days, 30 days, 61 days. 61 days after that February. February 28 days are there. Out of 28, 1st February you leave. 2nd Feb he came. Right? So 20, I'll make a note here. May 31 days, June 30 days, then after June, 30th June he left. Then came back again on 2nd February 2019. February consists of 28 days. 28 days leave 1 day because from 2nd onwards he was in India. So 27 days. 27 days he was in India. Right? Then after February, March 31 days. So 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. 3, 3 is a 9, 10, 11. 119 days you can see here. 119 days he was in India in 18-19. So his status will be non-resident. Status is non-resident. Then before that, that means first from 2nd Feb 2019 he was in India. Completely in India. That means the year 2019 and 2021 he was completely in India for 365 days. The whole year he was in India. So resident. So out of the 10 years, you can see 3 years he was resident. 3 years he was resident, 7 years he was non-resident. So what the first condition says? Must be a resident in at least 2. Yes, he was resident in 3 years. The first condition satisfied. Second condition says must stay in India for 730 days or more during 7 years preceding the current previous year. The current previous year 21-22. Before this 7 years. 7 year means from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to here. This 7 year period he must stay in India for 730 days. 730 days over because 365 plus 365 plus 119 plus 307 more than 730 days. That means he is satisfying the second basic condition, second additional condition also. So SSC Mr. Johnson, he has satisfied the first basic condition, more than 182 days he is resident. He satisfies both the additional conditions. So Mr. Johnson is resident and ordinarily resident for the previous year 21-22, for the assessment year 22-23. That's it. The SSC satisfies the first basic condition and both the additional conditions. So he is a resident and ordinary resident in India for the previous year 21-22. Finished. This is the end of 7th problem. Right? So far I have completed the problems on individuals. Now I am reading out the problem on HUF, Hindu Undivided Family. 8th problem. A Hindu undivided family is living in Kanpur in India. Karta of the family visited Singapore from 5/10/2021 to 1/7/2022. So during the previous year, he went to Singapore from 5/10/2021 to 1/7/2022. It means when he was in Singapore, he is taking the decision from Singapore, and remaining period he was in India. That means this HUF is partly controlled from India and partly controlled from Singapore. Determine the residential status for the assessment year 22-23. Now see, in the previous video I have explained you about how to determine the residential status of HUF. If the control and management is wholly in India, it's a resident. If the control and management is partly in India and partly outside India, then also resident. If the control and management of HUF is completely outside India, it's a non-resident. That's it. In our present problem, partly in India and partly outside India, so the HUF is a resident. And it is not given the residential status of Karta. So we assume that the Karta satisfies both the additional conditions. So finally we can say HUF is a resident and ordinary resident. Karta of HUF visited Singapore from 5/10/2021 to 1st July 2022. It means HUF is partly controlled from India and partly outside India. So the HUF is a resident. Assuming that Karta satisfies both the additional conditions, we conclude that the HUF is resident and ordinary resident for the assessment for the previous or assessment year 22-23. Assessment year 22-23 or previous year 21-22. Anything you can write. So this is the 8th problem, HUF. 9th problem. Mr. Moody is the eldest male member of HUF. The family consists of mother and 4 brothers. The properties and business houses are in India. Due to employment, he is staying in Australia for the last 20 years. However, all the policy decisions are taken from there. That means HUF is located in India. Business is conducted in India. But the Karta, head of the family, is living in Australia for the last 20 years. And he is managing the business from Australia. That means the control and management is completely outside India. So this HUF is called non-resident HUF. He came to India on 15th June 2021 after 15 years and left India on 1st December 2021. From June to December, he was in India. Determine the residential status of HUF. Once it is given that the control and management is completely outside India, then the HUF will be non-resident HUF. It is immaterial that Karta has visited India and for few months he stayed in India and left India. That doesn't make any difference. The moot point is from where the control and management is. The control and management is entirely from Australia, so this HUF is non-resident HUF. So assessment year 22-23, previous year 21-22, 1/4/2021, 31st March. He came to India on 15th June 2021 and left India on 1st 12/2020. It is given that all policy decisions are taken from Australia, so the control and management is completely outside India. We can conclude that the control and management is completely outside India, so non-resident. The HUF is a non-resident for the previous year 21-22. It is immaterial that Karta has visited India, few months he spent in India and then again went back to Australia. Finally, The control and management is from Australia only. So it's a non-resident HUF. Next one, 10th problem. Sri Arun Kumar Bang, resident of Delhi, is the Karta of HUF since 1990. The business properties are in Chennai and property is in Mumbai, and other income generating assets are in Hyderabad. But all Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, all Delhi, all these are in India only. The HUF family business there, it is scattered throughout the states. He manages the family affairs from Delhi through the assistance of his brothers and paid staff. So this Arun Kumar Bang is the Karta. He is managing the business with the help of his brother and other staff. During the previous year 21-22, he managed from Delhi and Nepal. That means partly from Delhi and partly from Nepal. Then it is a resident HUF. His personal residential status is non-resident for this year, but he was resident and ordinary resident since 1990. Only during current previous year, the individual, the Karta's residential status is non-resident. Before the current previous year, he was entirely ordinary resident in India. Determine the residential status. See here. The HUF is managed and controlled partly from India and partly outside India. So the HUF is resident. First point. Because it is given partly from India and partly from Nepal. So it is resident HUF. Now the personal resident status of Karta is non-resident during the current previous year, but resident and ordinary resident since 1990. What the condition is given? Current previous year, Karta was non-resident. Before the current previous year, for the last 10 years, he was ordinarily resident in India. Now, basic condition is satisfied and both the additional conditions are also satisfied. So the HUF is resident and ordinary resident for the current previous year. We have to check the additional conditions on Karta. Karta says only during current previous year he is non-resident. But before the current previous year, he was resident. So we have to see only before current year, not current year. So it is immaterial that the Karta is resident or non-resident during the current previous year. We have to check the previous 10 years for additional conditions. In this case, Karta satisfies both the additional conditions. So the HUF is a resident and ordinarily resident for the current assessment year 22-23. That's it. 11th problem. Mr. Kishore Kumar Nasik is the Karta of HUF. Determine the residential status for the previous year 21-22 in the following three situations. So three situations are given. In each situation, we have to determine what is the residential status of HUF. First one, business is wholly managed from Tokyo. See here. Business is wholly managed from Tokyo and residential status of Karta is resident and ordinary resident. First of all, the business of the HUF is managed from Tokyo, Japan, outside India. It's a non-resident. It's a non-resident. Once the HUF is non-resident, we should not check the additional conditions. We don't require the residential status of Karta because it is managed from Tokyo, it's a non-resident. Second, business is wholly managed from India and Karta never went outside India for the last 25 years. Business is completely managed from India, so it is a resident HUF. Karta was also completely in India for the last 25 years. He was in India only. So he satisfies both the additional conditions. So the status is resident and ordinary resident for this HUF. Lastly, 7 months is managed from India and the remaining period is managed from a foreign country. And Karta is resident for the last 10 years. In this case, the business is partly managed from India and partly managed outside India. So it is a resident. It's a resident. And the Karta is also resident for the last 10 years. That means Karta satisfies both the additional conditions. It is a resident and ordinary resident. Resident and ordinary resident. That's all. Next, 12th problem. Determine the residential status of a limited company. So far we have done the problems on individual and HUF. The last two problems are on companies. Determine the residential status of a limited company in the following situation A, B, C, D, E. 5 situations are given. In each situation, we have to decide whether the company is a resident company or non-resident company. First one, incorporated in India and managed from India. Any company which is incorporated in India is an Indian company. And every Indian company is a resident. Finished. We should not see from where it is managed or controlled. Once it is decided that it is incorporated in India, it is a resident company. So resident. Second, incorporated in India but managed from outside India, immaterial. Once it is incorporated in India, it is an Indian company and every Indian company is a resident. It is immaterial that it is managed from outside India. It's a resident company. Next, incorporated out of India but managed from India. The company's incorporation is made from outside India, foreign company, but it is completely controlled and managed in India. It is a resident. If the whole control and management is in India, then it is a resident company. Then incorporated out of India and managed out of India. That means the incorporation is done outside India and control and management is also outside India. This company is a non-resident company. Right? Next, last one. Incorporated out of India but managed partly from India and partly from outside India. It is incorporated outside India, but control and management is partly in India and partly outside India. Again, it is a non-resident company. It will become resident if it is completely controlled from India. If it is partly controlled from India, partly outside India, it's a non-resident company. Non-resident. That's all. Last and final problem, 13th. Gujarat Agro Company Limited incorporated in India in the year 1988. Since 16th November 2019, the company is conducting all the business activities in foreign countries. Determine the residential status of the previous year. Once a company is incorporated in India, it is an Indian company and it is resident. It is immaterial that the business operations are being done completely outside India. If all the activities are done even outside India, the company will be resident because it is incorporated in India. That's it. So when the company is incorporated in India, it's a resident company. It is immaterial where the business activities are done. So in the present case, the company is resident for the assessment year 22-23. That's all. Totally 13 problems I have explained on this topic of residential status. So if you watch the video 2-3 times, definitely in examination with full confidence, you can attempt the question on problems of residential status. So this marks the end of unit number 1, that is introduction. Second unit is income from salary. Inshallah, the next video I'll make on income from salary. So if you are satisfied, give a like to the video. Share my channel among your groups, among your friends, so that more students can watch the video and enhance the knowledge. Apart from apart from graduation, I have uploaded a number of videos for BBA, MBA, MCOM, etc. So visit the playlist, select your subject, watch the videos. Then definitely your knowledge will increase. You will feel more confidence on the subject. So give your comments, subscribe my channel if you have not yet subscribed, and buy the super thanks which is given below my video. Inshallah, we'll continue the next topic in the next video.